go. Change up.
Welcome back to the SNS Sportscast. You guys definitely know why I got this trash can, and you know why Maddie's screaming change up or curveball at me. That's right. We're doing our sixth and final part of our cast, and that is the NL West, sponsored and featured by those cheating. I can't speak profanity here. I'm a Yankee fan, as you could tell. I'm going to keep my cool, but it's sponsored and brought to you by the Astros, the Houston cheating Astros, garbage can, trash can banging Astros, who I can't stand. I'm popping blood vessels over here, Maddie.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Listen, as a Mets fan, luckily I haven't had really any experience with having to deal with the Astros. But all I could say is it's really funny that if you look back, the Mets actually played the Astros in 2017 at the end of the season. Don't get me wrong. We were way out of it by then. But it was like the first game after the whole Hurricane Harvey thing. Mm-hmm. And it was a day game doubleheader in Houston. So there was nobody there. And I just remember – I don't remember who was pitching. Maybe Chris Flexen. It was a 1-2 count on George Springer. Looks in for his sign. Gets to the set. You just hear – sure enough, George Springer hit a 450-foot home run off of a curveball that he looked like knew was coming. So it's funny. But listen, at the end of the day, I don't know how you feel. I can't imagine.
I'll tell you off air because it'll have a little profanity in it. But all kidding aside, we're going to keep it rolling. American League West. Unfortunately, I got those damn cheaters coming in first place because, listen, all cheating aside, their lineup is still way too talented not to win this division. I have them beating out the Oakland Athletics just by a 2-game difference. Astros at 36-24, with the Athletics following right behind at 34-26. Who knows? Maybe the Astros become a little worse. They did lose Garrett Cole. So that's obviously a huge loss. But like I said, this lineup is still so good. And now they can't cheat anymore. So who knows if they're going to be as good as advertised. Mm-hmm.
I do think that they will be still, in my opinion, the Houston Asterisks, as I'm going to call them. Not the look, they're really good. I mean, Alex Bregman is much of a, I don't want to say it on baseball. He's just a really, really good baseball player. George Springer, too, is another guy that I always liked, so I was really disappointed by this. Northeast guy, I always like those types of guys. And, I mean, look, their lineup's really deep. They had a nice young star come up last year in Yordan Alvarez, who I think is going to be really good. And I know that their pitching staff, like you said, took a hit. But they still have Verlander, who's just somehow gotten better. The Astros know how to make these guys. Mm-hmm. And Lance McCullers coming back as well this year to take that role of the number 3 starter behind Zach Greinke as well. I have the Astros as well beating out the Athletics, but only by 1 game. And then after that, I mean, Angels, I have them going 500. What do you have them at? What did you say?
The Angels, I have them at 29-31 just because I'm not sold on them. And we still don't know if Trout's going to play. If Trout doesn't play, that 29 goes right to 20, and it's not even a question about it. But like you said, they made a really good off-season signing with Anthony Rendon, absolute stud coming over from the Nationals. Shohei Ohtani is still a star. But I have the Rangers edging them out, going 33-27.
Really?
That might even be a little too little generous there, just because I love Corey Kluber, and if he could be anything like he was a couple years ago, that'll add a couple wins. And Mike Minor, a great starting pitcher, and Lance Lynn was really good last year for them. So the Rangers, not a terrible lineup, really good staff. I got them winning more games than the Angels. So
you have the Rangers in position to maybe win a wild card spot here.
Potentially.
That's interesting. Very good. I mean,
the best player in the offseason, Greg Bird. I mean, who's better than Greg Bird, right? Obviously, just kidding about Greg Bird there. But then you got the Mariners all the way at the bottom of the division. I have 22-38. They're not even worth talking about because they're going to definitely finish in last place. Although maybe your boy Jared Kelenic plays for them.
Yeah, as a Mets fan, that's going to haunt me for a while. Unless somehow the Mets end up winning a World Series and Edwin Diaz is, a good closer. Because listen,
the only way.
At the end of the day, that deal was for Edwin Diaz. You took on Cano's contract in exchange for Edwin Diaz because that's what you were really going with there. I know Cano was, there was some hope that he was going to be okay, but he's old now, and I'm sure the whole move back to New York was nice for him because, he gets out of there, and he's just going to go through his final stages of his career as a Met. And listen, I like the guy. I have no problems with him, so whatever. I mean, he does him, and eventually he'll fade out of that lineup probably. That's my prediction.
Yeah.
But Go ahead, Ant. So why don't you talk about, just get into this, because I really, this division, at the end of the day, like I know about this division, but to me it's a little vague to me.
It's one of those weird divisions nobody's really watching. I mean, they play. We live on the East Coast, so these games don't start till 10:15, 10:30. No one's really staying up for them. But my breakout player going all the way out in Oakland, Jesus Luzardo. This kid has all the makings to be an absolute stud on the mound. Big, tall lefty, throws absolute gas. I mean, in 6 games last year, put up a 1.5 ERA and a .67 WHIP with 16 strikeouts over 6 games. This kid is going to be really, really good and really dangerous for years to come. I really like Jesus Luzardo. Any lefty, tall, skinny, throwing absolute gas, you have to put on your radar no matter who it is. And this kid really just checks all the boxes for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, listen, I liked him in the playoff game last year. I really did. The guy has really good stuff. I actually think potential, I guess, a good person for you, maybe, like a 1A for it would be the guy AJ Puck, also on the Athletics.
Both
who's
identical.
Just, they're literally this. I don't know. They're the same player to me right now. They both throw really hard.
A little more.
I agree.
I
agree. No, Luzardo, he's good stuff, and he has the potential bigs to be a top of the rotation guy for them. I like him a lot.
Yep.
For me, my breakout player is actually going to be somebody that's, once again, not really breakout, but maybe this is where he hits his full stride, is Shohei Ohtani. So now we haven't seen him pitch a full season yet. We haven't seen him play a full season yet. Right. So, I mean, look, Ohtani last year strictly as a batter and only 384 at-bats, hit 18 home runs, drove in 62 with an OPS around 850, 286 batting average, 2.5 WAR. That's a solid year for a hitter. Now, if he can make those stats elevated even a little bit more and be a number 2 or 3 pitcher on a staff that really needs him because their staff just isn't all that good, I think he's a really good baseball player. And
he's phenomenal.
I mean, he has talent through the roof. I mean, how many guys throw 100 miles an hour and can hit the ball 450 feet?
Exactly. No wonder, really.
The Angels lineup, this is why I have them 30-30, to be honest, is their lineup to me is really good and it's underrated. If you look at that lineup, it has
top heavy. After that,
I mean, look at these guys in this lineup. They have what a breakout year last year. Who knows if Tommy La Stella will ever repeat that? But they have him. They have Rendon. They have Mike Trout. They have Shohei Ohtani. They have Justin Upton, who's also another underrated bat in that lineup.
He's older now.
Yeah, but look at his he had a good year last year statistic-wise. I mean, they have good players.
This is where we kind of heavily disagree, I think, here. After your first, 3 or 4 in this Angels lineup, they're done to me. I don't think they're going to be strong enough to compete. And they're pitching, like you said, outside of Ohtani. I just don't think it's that good at all. So
I think that their lineup keeps them in
that many games.
Yeah, I have 30 wins because I think the division sucks. So really, that's what it comes down to.
We'll see. But listen, sticking with the Angels, obviously my MVP, I'm sure your MVP in America and every other country's MVP, Mike Trout, best player on the planet. No doubts about it. Will probably be the AL MVP as well, unless my buddy Aaron Judge over there in the Bronx gives him a run for his money. But still, Trout's obviously the leading favorite. And in terms of just division MVP, no one comes close to Mike Trout.
No. I mean, that division doesn't have a ton of stars. I mean, I know the Astros have Bregman. The A's have, Matt Chapman. But nobody's Mike Trout.
But it's Trout we're talking here. No one.
Nobody's Mike Trout. And I don't know if anybody will ever be Mike Trout. You know, maybe the best player ever already. He's really at the end of his career, all said and done, he's going to have arguments to be made to one of the best baseball players of all time.
No question.
And there's no reason to think that Mike Trout won't continue with those expectations and hit 20 home runs in a 60-game year this year.
Right. So, listen, AL West, not your fanciest division, I guess you could say, or not your most, popular division. They obviously headed by a bunch of trash banging cheaters that I just can't stand. And I hope the Astros don't win a single game for the rest of their existence, as far as I'm concerned. But really good segments, divisions 1 to 6. At the end of the day, I think we can both agree the strongest division in baseball, 1 to 5, is the National League East.
Yes, National League East is the strongest. I think that the Yankees and the Dodgers, as we could agree on, are the best teams in their respective divisions. And I honestly think, as much as we have our predictions that we do, I mean, anything can happen in a 60-game year.
60 games, yep.
You never know what happens if the Tigers win 20 out of their first 35 or something
and
like that.
Don't forget that lingering enemy, that COVID-19. Who knows who's going to be affected by it? Like I said, if your best player gets it, your best player is missing at least a third of your season. Mm-hmm. So a lot of question marks going into baseball this year, but overall, I'm so happy it's back. Hopefully we get a full season. If you guys didn't see our last video on that, on the Major League Baseball season and whether it's in doubt, make sure you go check that out. Maddie, awesome job as always. So happy to bring you guys great information on the divisions. And let's go play some baseball.